Hello, this is The Intersection.
Hey, you're watching The Intersection, where faith, life, and culture meet. My name is Eric.
I'm Justin, and joining us today at the Moody Church in downtown Chicago is Melody Knapp, who is a counselor and a member of the Moody Church for quite some time. Melody, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Glad you're here.
So glad to have you, Melody. I'm really excited to have you with us because we're starting a series today called Emotional, looking at the Bible and how the Bible addresses our emotions as humans, because God made us to be emotional creatures. Like, our emotions are not something bad that needs to be suppressed, but actually dealt with. And I love this because it really kind of streamlines my two ministries that I lead here at the Moody Church. I'm the pastor for college students in disability ministries. And in our disability ministry, we actually have a subsection of a ministry called the mental health ministry, of which Melody's on the leadership team for that. And then also with college students, we know that 18 to 25-year-olds struggle with anxiety and depression, really processing their emotions at a much higher rate than the general population. Mm-hmm. And so we're actually doing a series in Crossroads, that's the college ministry, this fall, that's going to coincide with this. So I'm really excited to do that. Yes, that is a shameless plug.
Almost as though this is designed to tie in.
But so today, we're actually, the first emotion that we're dealing with is the emotion of joy, or happiness, we might say. And I think that's a great place to start, because it's an emotion that I think a lot of us really struggle with and don't even think about, like, hey, I need to process this, or I need to do this, and yet, like, the Bible commands it, right?
For sure. Like, I mean, Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. Mm-hmm. Again, I will say rejoice.
Again, rejoice.
Yes.
So it's like, it's a double command.
Yes.
And like, one of the shortest verses in the Bible is First Thessalonians 5:16, which just says, rejoice always. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when we shift into neutral, Christians should be kind of just always rejoicing.
Yeah.
So today we said that we are going to talk about 3 ways to just be really happy. And I know that sounds like super like sensitive and cool, like, yeah, how do you be really happy? But like, the Bible talks about being happy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like the word blessed literally means happy. So how do we be really happy when really means like biblically happy from God's perspective?
Yeah. So yeah, I really like this, the verse in Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord. The emphasis there is in the Lord. So we all know that we go through trials and testing, and life can be very chaotic, unpredictable at times, right?
Yeah.
And it's very unstable. And so we get to feel all those different emotions, fear, anxiety, sadness, depression, or even anger. And so, but in the midst of that, you could actually feel those emotions still, but still have joy, because we're rejoicing in the Lord through the dark times, through temptations, through trials and testings. So not separating God from the experience that we have in this world, but we're doing it in the Lord through this valley.
Yeah. So our first question for you, I guess, is how do you really experience real joy, real happiness when you just don't feel it?
Okay. When you don't feel it, what did I say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What did I say on that one? Oh my gosh.
You have
know what joy is.
Where,
okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
So let's try that again.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I guess the question that we kind of want to start off with is, if you really want to be happy, if you really want to feel that blessedness or that joy, how do you do that when you just don't feel it? Yeah. Like, I imagine, Justin, there are times when you just don't feel it.
Sure.
I mean, let's pretend, sure.
You're not.
I'll just empathize. I'll just pretend to empathize.
Okay.
So what do you do when you don't feel joy?
The first is to know what joy is. we get the joy from God. He is the object of our joy. He is the source of our joy. He's our creator. And so him being our creator is that he also provides those things that he expects us to experience. So if we know, and he is the one who sustains that joy for us, even when we're experiencing the unpredictability, the chaos of what life gives us, we know that God could sustain us because he is the same, right? He's the one who's grounding us. He's the one who's stable enough to ground us. He's perfect. And he's strong and powerful and mighty. He's sovereign.
Right.
You know,
So,
he got it. He got this.
Yeah,
you got this.
He got this.
that's a good word.
So you're saying we're leaning into God, God's
Yes.
person, God's character. But
Yes.
if we're going to lean into God, right, we need to be in the Word.
In the Word, with in His presence, right?
I love that word presence because it reminds me there's this Puritan practice where they would regularly say that you need to practice the presence of Christ. And I think that's something that we've really kind of lost in the church today. Like we don't actually think about actually practicing God's presence, actually imagining Him there before us. And it's not really imagining, it's kind of visualizing the reality, right? That God is truly with us. Christ is with us,
Yeah, we
united
have
to
the Holy
us.
Spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have the Holy Spirit, and if the Holy Spirit is the indwelling of the Holy, right? Sorry, I'm just thinking.
You're good.
The indwelling of the Holy Spirit, we have the Holy Spirit, and so engaging with the Holy Spirit and what He's doing in our lives, even through these times when joy tends to escape us when we're feeling a certain negative emotions.
So if you want to be really joyful, know what joy is.
Okay.
But what about when your joy is constantly being stolen? Like, I imagine imagine all of us have kind of experienced that, where it's like, hey, having a really good day, and then all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah.
Or that person comes into the room and they have all their issues, and it kind of really, I hate to say it, like kind of dampens the mood. And it's like, well, I was having a really good day, and now my joy is kind of like depleted or deflated.
Yeah. So we need to know who the intruder is. I will call the intruder. Our intruders could be our temptations, the things that we compare ourselves with, our trials, our testings, our also our deceptions and our denials. So those things could actually be our intruders that are stealing our joy away. And so when we know when we know who our intruder is, then we could set those boundaries, or we can make sure that our joy is guarded.
That's such a good word. So it's kind of like, first off, like kind of know what joy is, and that it comes from God, and it's that idea of being blessed and following there. And then second, I like the way that you put that of knowing the intruder, because it kind of hits on where God is, where joy is, right? It's like know where joy is, because if you know that it's truly guarded by God and it's given to you by God, then no one should be able to steal it. It's when we take it out of the realm of where God is, and we begin to find joy and find all of our purpose in those things outside of Him, that joy can be easily stolen.
So, on the note of finding joy in other things, like I know a lot of people struggle with they're comparing themselves to others, right? And like the things that we do, maybe it's our job, maybe it's just how we're spending our time, maybe it's not being as good in our hobbies. Sometimes people feel like they're doing things that don't matter. Like if you're washing dishes and you're saying to yourself, well, I went to law school, why am I washing dishes?
Yeah.
How do you help somebody who's not getting joy out of the tasks that they're doing?
So we need to redirect our focus, right? We need to ask ourselves, what actually does matter? Sometimes, where's our treasure? Where's our heart's desire? And how do we align that to God's desire? And so when we start to compare ourselves with other human beings, we're also losing focus on His presence, right? Now we're in the presence of other people's lives. It's kind of like watching television, and then you want to live the life of those actors, and it's like, but then you have your own life. We need to kind of be reminded God has given us a life to experience, and how do we treasure that? How do we focus on God Himself, and then who do we worship? where's our heart's desire? Who do we serve? And if our focus is directed to Him, then we can glorify Him, because our heart's desire is to seek Him, and that's what pleases Him, what glorifies Him.
It's
So I know
awesome.
that's a
No, that's a really good answer.
That ties
Okay.
into a book that I read years and years and years ago. It's
Okay.
a tiny little book,
Yeah.
and it's called The Practice of the Presence of God, written by someone named Brother Lawrence. He
Yeah,
was just a
I
monk.
read that book a long
Yeah,
time
like
ago.
I mean, I don't know how long ago this this monk lived, because I'm not looking at the book.
Yeah.
And it reads like stereo instructions at times,
Yeah.
but the general gist of it is you see this guy deriving amazing joy from washing the dishes in a monastery because he knew for whom he was doing that dishwashing. He was doing it
Yes.
to God. He was trying to do
Yeah.
the best job as a dishwasher
Yes.
he possibly could
Yes.
for God, because that's what the task
Yeah.
was that was put in front of him. And I just,
Yeah.
when I think about it, it's like, I mean, the book reads like
Yeah.
stereo instructions at
Yeah.
times. It's like, Brother Lawrence got
Yeah.
up and he put his shoes on and he did this thing.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily riveting reading, but that
Yeah.
principle really helped me at times.
Yeah.
I've never read that book. I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
It's
pick
super
that
short.
up.
And I could relate with that actually, because there was 3 years when I felt like I was in my desert phase where God was not answering any of my prayers.
Yeah.
And God was actually telling me, I need you to be grateful, just within my presence.
Yeah.
I want you to seek me and be content to my presence.
Yeah.
And so and I was actually here at Moody Church serving. I was in the kitchen doing dishes. And I was like, okay, Lord, this is what you want me to do. I will just do this, and I will just sing for joy. And then, because I have you, you're enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There you have it. 3 ways that we can be really happy, really blessed, really joyful, know what joy is, know where joy is, and know why joy is. Melody, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you,
today.
My
Melody.
pleasure.
We'd encourage you to check out this little book. Definitely check out the book that Justin mentioned by Brother Lawrence. What was it called again?
The Practice of the Presence of God.
Practice the Presence of God. And then also check out this little book by John Piper, The Dangerous Duty of Delight. I love that book because it kind of talks about what does it mean to rejoice as a duty. It's something that we're commanded to do. If you enjoyed this conversation, we encourage you, please press the like button under this video. And don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so that you can be a part of future conversations of the intersection as we continue our series, Emotional. Definitely not finished. This was only the first episode.
Yeah, right?
So much more to come.
So much more,
Okay.
we think.
Yeah. Well, I thought this one went really well. I thought you did a really good job.
Okay, good.
I had fun.
Okay, good.
What is this now? You're wearing a really weird shirt.
Yeah, what is that? It's like a
It's-
scary person.
No, it's a professional wrestler.
Cool.
Kofi Kingston, the
Oh, I don't
only WWE title holder born on African soil.
Oh, really? Very cool. Very cool. It's bright.